for sharing his time and expertise with us today. Dwayne is a founding member of Wisconsin Urban Wood, an appointed member of the Wisconsin Urban Forestry Council, and serves with the national organization, the Urban Wood Network. His business uses urban trees to create custom-made lumber for architects, manufacturers, and contractors to use for their projects. His business is inspiring to me because it shows the responsible use of the raw material that trees grow, wood, and that is something all communities have to decide how to handle during a tree removal. Dwayne has been passionate about finding the highest use from urban trees. And now it is my pleasure to introduce to you Dwayne Sperber. Take it away, Dwayne.
Aaron, thank you so much. Nice introduction and a lot of good people that I've had the opportunity to talk to today. So many of you may have attended my earlier presentation today, so I'll try not to repeat too much here, but you may hear some familiar things and even see some familiar images. I was asked to discuss options, different models, and the considerations involved when developing a community plan for utilizing urban wood. That's nearly verbatim to what was listed in the agenda. While 1 hour is so very generous, and I'm thankful for that, there is ultimately days, if not more, of information to share on this topic. So I thought about this for a while and determined what I feel most important to share and discuss with you. And it has very little to do with the mechanics of this topic and more to do with the why. As in, why do you have a role in the built environment and why connect with the Urban Wood Network? So a quick review of what I spoke about this morning was that back in the early 2000s, and at the time it was related to an EAB response, the mission statement of the Urban Wood movement was simple. We should utilize these trees. That was the mission statement. We learned over the next decade that it was relatively easy to source logs and process them into lumber. And everybody loved the idea, the story. But we learned that opening the doors and saying wood for sale was not enough, even when the lumber was milled and kiln dried properly. Early independent businesses focusing on urban wood came and went. Sales were not enough to sustain this good idea. Municipalities who got involved, some who purchased sawmills and went into the lumber business or organized log sales, would oftentimes become discouraged, one after the other. And sales were not enough to sustain this good idea. Markets who could help in responding to the abundance and potential that we had identified, markets meaning those who could buy wood and utilize wood, they just simply were not responding. Why? It was such a good idea. I also witnessed firsthand that it was relatively easy to fill warehouses full of lumber. And during this time, in 2003 or so, the U.S. Forest Service reported what I said earlier, that 4 billion board feet could come out every year out of our urban and community forest. And that number is closer now to 7 billion board feet. And I'm sorry here, give me 1 second. And we learned over the next decade that, let's see, it is relatively easy. I apologize, I've lost my place. So us early pioneers who hung in there and identified the need to simply sell these products, sell them better. That's what we identified. We need to sell better. And while we will touch on the different models today, and that you may develop a unique model that works best for you, I know to my core that you will figure it out if there is a deep understanding and commitment to your role in building markets or your role in the built environment. Any municipality or effort that is wanting to capture and utilize wood, it must involve and include a commitment to linking with those who are committed to building awareness and understanding and confidence and demand in urban forest products. A known and understood confident material stream will make your program successful. That is the story and mission, the purpose of the Urban Wood Network. The Urban Wood Network is putting feet under that good idea from so long ago. And today, these are some of our members. Excuse me, I'm going to skip ahead here. Today, UWN, as you learned earlier today, is a national membership-based association that's dedicated to the urban wood industry. And we are becoming the urban wood, the voice of the urban wood industry. We represent the entire urban wood supply chain at all levels of production. Today, UWN members include municipalities, government agencies, arborists, sawmills, and other stakeholders in 21 or more states now, plus Canada and other countries. But here's the question. So how do we get it to here? If everyone can see this full picture, this is a picture of a delivery of urban lumber to a pretty significant commercial project. How do we get it there? From your community. What had to happen to get it here, other than milling and producing products? So if you think the idea of urban wood utilization is a good one, and your management plan and community can experience benefits such as cost savings, efficiencies, if the benefit is an investment in your local community, if you can contribute to a lower carbon footprint and bring awareness to the forest you care so well for, I'd like you to know a little more about what gets the wood here to this scene, delivered to this site where urban wood was specified. And first, I'm going to start with the big three. This is what I call the big three. This is the message that the world needs to hear. Not the whole world, but those who have influence over buying materials. So lumber has been graded, specified, and sourced much the same way for a long time. It is so very standardized, which is not a bad thing, and it rarely has to be considered. They rarely have to think about, even if they need wood and are using wood, there's such a clear path to it that they don't have to stop and think about it too much during that design phase. And the point of purchase is familiar to most, meaning where do they go get it? Who do they call? 2, we have identified what is virtually a new wood product. And this new product is controlled in every way by nature, from appearance to availability. And that process of grading and specifying and sourcing this project can be a different process based on what they've been used to. And the point of purchase for urban wood is sometimes less familiar. And 3, because urban wood fills all or most of the same needs as traditional lumber, remember what I said earlier, let's not forget it's wood. The characteristics of grading, specified in sourcing, and the benefits of utilizing urban wood beyond the application, like the investment in our community and carbon, they must be understood, embraced, and introduced to those buyers. So UWN, as a result, is committed to being in this setting. As I said earlier today, these could be architects, developers, designers, or product manufacturers here. So to take this good idea to the next level, we needed to standardize while embracing that we are working within nature's inventory. And I hope that makes sense. And this is all going to circle back to what I'm supposed to be talking about today. So in other words, we are navigating something controlled by nature. In other words, we do not harvest trees to fill demand. We are controlling, let's just call it for this purpose, let's call it this waste. It's something that had to be removed, and here it is, and we need to do something with it. We are navigating that through very traditional paths so that we can get on the back of a truck with this lumber and show up to a project. In this world, it moves very fast. There are many wood substitutes that are predictable and familiar to these folks that design and build. And the points of purchase, especially today, are very easy and well known. And urban wood, in a way, is like shopping at a farmer's market. You know, what's that apple going to look like this time? And we need to navigate that in very thoughtfully and very carefully so that we can have a sustainable response to EAB or all the wood coming out of urban and community forest. So something I could never do alone is that I recognized this early on, really before it kind of is what inspired that we started as Wisconsin Urban Wood initially, and then it led to the Urban Wood Network. And through a DNR Urban Forestry grant in 2012, I believe, we developed the very first urban wood specification. Well, that's just been recently updated. And I also brought to the funders that we need to develop a product data sheet that explains in a narrative our story and why we do this, the why of what we do. And then to explain to those potential buyers how to navigate this process at the farmer's market, so to speak. And then we are going to introduce the upcoming urban wood standards and certification one day soon. So this is going to be a very valuable sheet that I look forward to working on one day soon. Because if Dwayne, a private citizen, developed all this material and was trying to change the world, change the way people think about their wood, I would not be very effective. So through UWN, we have this credibility to do significant projects like this. And I apologize, I've got kind of stumbled here. And so you're going to maybe wonder what I'm about to show you. But I'm going to ask you to hang on, and I'm going to freeform from this point on here. Some of you or most of you have probably heard of the LEED Greenbelt, the LEED certification for projects, and there's now a newish building certification called WELL. And it's important to know before we start a utilization plan and before we want to get rid of our logs and before we want to, it's sometimes easiest to say we're going to send them this way so they reach the highest use. If they're not connected to and committed to building a sustainable market and demand and industry and pathway, as I've just spoken about, it's going to be short-lived. So we're looking for long-term solutions. So what do we have to do? Well, what are designers thinking about? What is important in the world right now? And it is sustainability. It's carbon is such a hot topic right now. What are the health benefits? How are we using our resources responsibly? And so we're going to go through here, try to kind of quickly that the following are going to demonstrate, I think this is one of LEED's. The urban wood industry provides a variety of job opportunities, keeping money and jobs in the local economy. That's true with or without the certification, but that is something to think about and to know. Why are you diverting your logs? Well, it's an investment in your community. A local resource, materials that are unique to a location. What is the story behind the material? That is growing to be a more and more important thought to architects for creating pleasant and happy work environments, for example. And which ultimately there's research that says a happy work environment is more productive. And imagine if there are natural products used in that and they know a story behind that wood. A local resource, well, obviously utilizing local wood in a local market is ultimately creating better health through lowering emissions. We're not spending much on transport or fuel to ship it everywhere. That is something that we need to shoot for and support for in our utilization plans. Using more basic materials. Well, this seems kind of extreme, this file here with the chemistry set beside it, but I liked the phrasing, going back to more basic materials. Wood creates a lot of jobs. Wood is beautiful to work with. It's natural, it can be local. So let's go back to more basic materials. Health effects, a visual connection with outdoors. That's either literally through windows or through the products used in that. Or physical access to natural elements. Well, what if that physical, access was to a break room or an office that utilized urban wood in the furnishings or in other interior finishes? In biophilic design, I'm sure some of you have heard that phrase. It's growing certainly in popularity of hearing about it more. But it is basically the goal of biophilic design is design that reconnects us with nature. Now, you might think of, well, they mean water features and they mean big windows and perhaps landscapes and things like that. But what better way to connect to your urban and community forest than honoring it when it's gone and bringing those products back into your home or your office or some other function, or a truck bed of a DPW truck. What a wonderful testament it is to that tree. And then it gets to happen all over again. Celebration of place. This was important to one of my recent projects where the project wanted to demonstrate the sense of Milwaukee, its heritage, and forestry is such a big part of our state that they wanted to show wood. When the architects and owners learned about urban wood, we've got urban wood all over this project now. So it's highlighting elements that are unique to this local community. Urban wood fits that bill. And here is a favorite. You may remember me saying in the earlier presentation, because I say it a lot, I mentioned that let's not forget that it's wood, that it has a function, as in the stair treads you see here, or the door jambs I mentioned, or the less sung applications where wood is required. Why not use urban wood? So this is, I believe, the WELL certification. It actually credits the use of these innovative products in a very functional way. Well, I don't need the certification to tell me that that's good, but this is very encouraging. And the reason I'm dwelling on this so much right now is that this is why you would want to embrace your utilization plan, because and become members of the Urban Wood Network who are committed to working with these folks and understanding these folks. And we're investing personal dollars for our businesses and grant dollars to learn more about how we can introduce this resource more effectively and tell that story. And then one more is, I don't know if you can see the ash wall that's under construction here, but it had so many wild patterns in it. And going back to this biophilic design thing, it's using materials that have natural patterns. Oh my gosh, urban wood has a lot of beautiful natural patterns to it. And so after, and here I think I'm going to make you happy now. We're going to start, what I was going to say here, I was going to add, yes, we talk with a lot of architects, but this was a gathering of AWI, the Architectural Woodworking Institute, or Woodwork Institute. And a lot of cabinet shops are members of this, and they track trends and like to stay current and learn how to do quality woodworking. And so the Urban Wood Network collectively could be a part of this presentation, but you can imagine trying to gather this esteemed group together as just me. Yeah, we're going to go hear some guy named Dwayne talk about urban wood. Well, that's not going to create a response. And that's going to create a one-off success story for me, perhaps. We're after urban wood becoming a national known practice, from trees to products, and then again. So that's why I included that one. Okay, so now we're getting a little bit closer to these topics. Now, this is just one page of a 96-page RFP for the city of Milwaukee. And for years and years and years, it was called their waste management services. And over the years, as our efforts related to urban wood utilization in this area grew and grew, they actually changed their name to resource management. But now you can see this RFP is titled Urban Wood Utilization Services. Now, the reason I said all that I did before about we need to sell this wood for these models to work, we need to focus on selling, and you may wonder what I have to do with selling. Well, myself and others were able to influence some of the language here. And the commitment that is making Milwaukee's model a success. I'm going to read some of this. What urban wood utilization interest? So they're asking the proposer, the person who's filling this proposal out, what is your desire to maximize value-added forest products? Number two, what is your desire to divert 100% of solid wood source materials from landfill disposal? Three, desire to identify and advance opportunities and partnerships that maximize the utilization of locally derived urban forest products. Four, desire to retain and or create job opportunities for the residents of Milwaukee. Desire to increase market awareness and demand for urban forest products. Now, because the city of Milwaukee cannot, in a sense, endorse an organization like ours or any particular people, that language covers it, because at the time we were the only game in town that was giving that commitment to what would make that a sustainable model. And it wasn't just one person, it was a collection of people who could receive Milwaukee's waste or resources, who could receive their resources, who could process their resources properly, who would work to make this happen again and again. So I would urge that any model that you select would have this language in it. It will help you be successful and long-lasting. And the language in this RFP was inspired a DNR urban forestry grant project I'm a part of right now. We are writing policy, so to speak, that will be included in the county I live in, is Waukesha County, the county's sustainability plan. So we are working with their parks and forestry people to include this similar language, that whoever you send this material to or comes and gets it, are they going to use it to its highest use? So on and so forth. So I think that is very key. And I think this was a good place to start, because we're going to get into, I shared briefly about this, a little bit about Milwaukee. And so you can see here how Milwaukee fulfills their part of the service. Is they typically remove trees that are safe and worthy this way. And the next crew that's about to take this tree down comes in and removes it. The city crews come in and they have the equipment. Obviously, this is a pretty sweet setup. And then they retrieve these logs. The rest of the tree is gone. They offload it into 30 cubic yard containers. I mentioned here, I was so happy when Milwaukee changed their name from waste management to resource management. That was a big deal. And before, they didn't know where their trees went. I'm not saying that they were horrible people, meaning now they know where their wood residue goes, and that it's going to a good home. And while this looks extravagant, the containers are then, this happens to be the mill that I work with exclusively. We now receive this material at no cost. But as we told you, this is what we get. So this is not free. This is a lot of work. And there's a lot of markets in here. And I'd like you to remember this image, because I'm going to talk a little bit later that I feel there are two types of sources for logs, and there are many different models and a lot of different demand. But what I'm very excited to share with you is that their commitment and our relationship with them has cut their disposal cost in half. Now, I have to say this out loud. There are companies that could perhaps come and get it for free. I have to say that. I'm sure you all could find them. It might be a firewood person who would agree to take it all for nothing and create firewood. Now, I have nothing against firewood. But what about these beautiful saw logs that are in there? So cutting their disposal costs in half was part of that attitude. Well, I tell you what, guys, we're already saving 50%, but look what we're doing for our community and for the sustainability of this whole effort going on. So it comes down to that attitude. And attitude is kind of a strong word. That's just the word I choose. What's your outlook on this? Now, this is a model, and this is why I said you're going to build the model that works for you. And I know that if you have utilization in mind, hopefully based on what I've just said, that you are a part of this market, you will figure it out. This happens to be a private arborist operation, but it could be a smaller municipality. Using this private arborist as an example for a municipality, they simply stockpile these logs. And this arborist is an Urban Wood Network member. They will make their logs available to Urban Wood Network members who will preserve that provenance, that I can't say chain of custody officially yet. I will one day, but that's what I mean. That chain, I'm going to say it, the chain of custody, that thing that's like a chain of custody. And then that builds a confident buyer on the end. Oh, this truly is wood that came out of this area. Oh, this was removed and made available. That this did follow a path. And then it's up to the lumber folks and the suppliers like me then to preserve that path, market it and carry it forward and continue that path right back into the community most times. And then the city and arborist comes back around and they plant trees, and then we got this cool circle. So again, if this were a municipality, the logs could be stockpiled here in a place, and members could come in and access them with proper insurance protocols, all of that. This municipality could have a use agreement with UWN saying and committing to, yes, we are only making this available. There are many different ways. Or this container model has grown in popularity, or this municipality could containerize it when they have enough and send it to one of our members who will, take it the rest of the way home. This is it's I don't want to say it's a waste of time to show these images, but this is how simple it can be. This happens to be in Madison, and these trees were coming down and they notified our membership. And within the proper amount of time, somebody let somebody else know and said, leave those for me. I guarantee they will be gone on this day. And again, I know I appear to be this big high volume supplier. And that what do 3 logs mean to me? It means everything to me if they are following this channel. Because there's been a few times where we needed to source wood from multiple members who also held on to that provenance. And that is why I'll go backwards now, that it is important that you have that understanding, because I feel pretty strongly that you will experience some benefit once a network or this process gets going, and it won't happen overnight. But once this process gets going, I want you to experience it every day. And to experience the benefits that I'm pretty sure you'll experience, we must sell it. And it's this known supply chain that is helping build that confidence and demand for these products. That is the deep way of thinking about all of this. And so this is The other thing we've scheduled, it's wonderful when a park system golf course, for example, says, oh gosh, we're taking down hundreds of ash trees. I proposed coordinating containers for them. Didn't charge them for the service, they just paid for the container. And it was a sweet setup. It saved them money in handling. And one thing one of our grant projects years ago demonstrated is that a city crew in Greenfield, Wisconsin, reported in their grant report that morale had increased. They love the idea of seeing these trees staying whole and getting loaded and sent to a higher place. It was less wear and tear on them, and they had the proper equipment to do so. And that was using the container model. So if there are ever scheduled removals, or you're going to do this park on this day, a container is a good way to do it, coordinated through a UWN network member or through your own membership. It could happen. And I'm not trying to make this sound easy. As long as we have utilization and building markets on the end, I think we'll figure out how to do it. This was, some of you may have read about this in Kenosha County. This was 3 parks that removed, boy, don't quote me, it was thousands of ash trees. It was 3,000 to 5,000 trees, if I remember right. And we were a part of promoting, not organizing it, but we're a part of promoting this utilization thing. So if there are ever large ones like that, our Urban Wood Network has this type of skill set in our members that can handle big jobs like this. And it saved the county, well, let's just say a lot of money, because the person who organized it was able to find markets for this wood. And this is just one small piece of what came out of that, which was 200,000 board feet of lumber came out of these 3 parks. That's a lot of wood for one little park, 3 little parks in one little Kenosha County. I will have to admit the markets and demands, we're not quite there for some of the less than traditional logs. The lumber was eventually sold kind of traditionally through other markets. But boy, I sure would have loved to have put it all right back into Kenosha or the region as urban forest products, and that day is coming. And I wanted to talk a little bit about here, I've lost all my notes here all of a sudden, but I wanted to talk about something kind of sensitive, and that is, what's the value of a log? And this is where I'm going to bring up that I feel that this is my opinion, I feel there are 2 sources of logs. One is the municipal loads that you saw, and Milwaukee is saving money by throwing anything they don't want to chip into that container. Pulp size wood, they can throw the wedge in from cutting the tree down. We don't take brush or stumps, but the goal is for them to put in as many logs of length and quality in that container as well. And only about 25% of a typical municipal load is millable. So we will mill these shorter logs. I don't know if you can see the scale. Yeah, there's someone's hand on it. So these are 5 feet long logs. Well, guess what? I know what happened to these particular logs. They went into tabletops that were just under 5 feet long. This is all maple, I believe. And that was pretty cool, because otherwise that's not a saw log to most. But we modified our equipment, the circle mills and things, and we can mill these logs. But we got that log at no cost because we took on that risk. Now, the pretty logs that I showed you earlier at the ones that were segregated like this, those, believe it or not, are a little bit more choice logs. And guess what? They don't come with any of the other stuff. So typically a maker, a furniture maker, or some other type of woodworker will receive from an arborist or a municipality a little bit more choice log. And many times there is money exchanged, but not a lot. And I just don't want to set up the opportunity that this is an incredible money-making opportunity to you. We have never paid for a log. The people that have been in this urban wood industry the longest, since the late 90s, have never paid for a log. You know why? Is because we are building a market for it. We are taking on the risk to sell. And well, look at your recycling. You set your recycling out on the street, and you pay somehow to have that hauled off. But then you feel kind of good because you know someone's out there that's going to do something with it. You paid for that service. This is kind of one of those attitudes. Now, if you have a choice set of laws, I'm not telling you not to sell it and not to make money. But what I would personally prefer is, are you saving money by removing and managing your logs a certain way? Are you investing in your company? Are you increasing morale, which might increase productivity? There's all different kinds of ways of thinking about it, or different attitudes, as I said earlier. So what is that value of logs? Or how much should you spend on making them marketable? That is something to discuss seriously. And I think there are many in our organization, including myself, that can help kind of hammer through that. But the idea is to let you all do what you do best, keeping our forest healthy and replanting and things. And we have a whole new industry with livelihoods depending on it now, that we can capture and process and get these logs utilized. So again, I've lost my notes here, but how do you start building a network? Well, I believe Aaron, hopefully he'll have time to talk a little bit about that. He's got a list of makers perhaps, or users or destinations or people to call on. Well, it would be wonderful if they were network members. And a network can help organize some type of a function to gather these stakeholders in it. We work closely with our DNR Urban Forestry and our Wisconsin Arborist Association. Our Urban Forestry Council, since I've been on since 2012 or 13 or so, but today we now have a required representation of a UWN member to serve the council as a required appointed member. Our bylaws have been amended to include a building and design professional on the council. We have an urban wood utilization group that is kind of cross-pollinating with the folks talking about good health grows on trees. Well, imagine the health that continues on using the products from those trees is the connection we're trying to make. And we're connecting through the council to present to colleges and universities who we are wanting to encourage to get the topic of urban wood utilization in relevant courses, such as interior design, architecture, construction management. And to date, we have presented several times to colleges with architectural programs. For the last 6 or 7 years, we've organized the Urban Forest Fest. It's a way to connect the visitors to their trees, sometimes literally. The WAA puts on a kids' tree climb, and then we have activities and sponsors. Our DNR is there, and U.S. Forest Service is there, but then we get to demonstrate a log being milled, furniture by our members, good food, good music, and it's a way to further build that market. We also we were asked to be a part of a tree planting session one time, Wisconsin Urban Wood. And if you'll remember, you know, it is about trees first, wood next. We really mean that. And I had the opportunity to work with Milwaukee School of Architecture Milwaukee School of Engineering. And this was a graduate sustainable design and construction course. And these students, this is not all of them, but they broke into groups to create the very first urban wood product data sheet. And that is a way to sneak our way in there to say, hey, this is a good idea. Why don't you include it in your curriculum going forward? Several years ago, I initiated the Wisconsin Urban Wood Utilization Award. It was presented to an innovative project that obviously used urban wood. And we presented the award to a pretty esteemed developer and architect at the United States Green Building Council committee. We hope that will be rejuvenated and happen again and again to help tell this story and to help you all find a destination for your logs that will be lasting. Skills USA. This is a program that ensures we have future mechanics and future woodworkers. And these are high school aged, well, I think there are a few secondary students in there too. And the cabinet making competition every year, it has usually focused on using plywood. And last year, it would have been 2019, they committed to using urban wood. So myself and another company helped donate this urban ash to these students, and they built quite a few tables. And so this is the way that the Urban Wood Network is working for you. We meet with architects. We meet with those who have influence over wood. We meet and speak to the next generation of makers who are now growing up, some of the first ones with urban wood utilization in the vernacular. You know, this is a part of the world now. And all of that comes right back to you and why, or should, or whatever. What's the value of a wood utilization plan? So I hope I've encouraged you to seek out, membership in the Urban Wood Network, because these are all the pieces that you'll pull together each time independently. This is the Urban Wood Network. I like the one that's united, but these are the pieces that it takes, from replanting to tree care to milling to finding somebody to make it, to find a destination for the wood each time. So putting your material into a material stream, while it won't happen overnight and we're still working on it, we need you to be part of that solution. We're not the answer. We are experienced, but we're not the immediate answer. And we need you to be a part of that solution. And I included this photo. This is in Eau Claire. I don't know if you can see it all. That's myself and one of our member makers, Tim Bernicki, in the middle, and Matt Stademeyer in the bright blue shirt is the city forester for Eau Claire. This is how a network can start. A photographer who was there at the time sent me this picture, and it just made me smile. Good work can come from something so simple. Three like-minded people, one of us saying, man, what are we going to do? What do we do? And that's how a network can begin. And luckily, we were a part of, each of us, of developing this Urban Wood Network. And that's what we decided to do. So I'm going to close with the same slide. I encourage you greatly to visit our Urban Wood Network website. There are a lot of webinars. There's a lot of resources there. But down below, I think there's a tab on the website that says join. It doesn't mean you join. It doesn't mean you join when you click the button, but just reading our membership agreement that's online gives you a very quick overview of benefits to you and your responsibilities to being a member. It gives you costs of being a member. And it gives you kind of that narrative of why we do what we do. And so if anything, I'd encourage you to take a look at the membership agreement, but the entire site. I'm very approachable. You can certainly contact me. And I hope I've left time for some questions. And I am thrilled to keep it going.
Yeah, we have plenty of time for questions, and I think this would be a great opportunity. Please raise your hand and we'll call on you. Feel free to drop it in the chat as well. We'll read your question for you, whichever way you prefer. Or if you just write your name that you have a question in the chat too, we can call on you and have you talk. So I already see a few hands up. So I'm going to go from the very top. Sean Christ, I'm going to lower your hand and ask you to unmute and go ahead and have you ask your question.
Okay, thank you, Dwayne, appreciate it. Sean Christ, Skillsusa Public Works, and also a hobbyist woodworker. Thank you for the information and presentation. Two questions, if I could. One is I'm curious about the cost of this material, the boards in particular, as that might compare to a traditional sawmill or hardwood supplier. And then second question, and this is more curiosity, is how about issues that may have come up with embedded metal or other materials, foreign materials in that hardwood, if you could please.
Yeah, sure. That's always one of the first questions. And the reality of it is that urban wood costs more. You can imagine a commercial logging operation in giant mill shop. They do things very efficiently. And you can imagine we may be getting our logs one tree at a time and gathering enough to mill. The logs are rarely straight. They're a little squirrely. So there takes some thoughtfulness in getting them milled efficiently, but we do it. We're committed to that. As a result, the best well, I can't compare it to current prices. It can be 30%, urban wood can be 30% more or up to 60% more. But I'll tell you, when you, as a person who supplies lumber as well as architectural woodwork, when I turn that into a square foot price, which is what I quote, like if they want wall cladding, when that's put into perspective of a square foot cost, no one bats an eye. Meaning, I do exactly, the cost of the wood is really negligible compared to creating the final product. And architects and those who ultimately buy it from me will ultimately say, oh yeah, that falls in. Boy, you're in between that $9 and $12 square foot price. We love it. And we're getting urban wood. So the price is what it is, but I will say we didn't decide to go into business and say, man, how much can we make off this now? And let's see what we can get. We priced it to be as reasonable as possible because it's a lot of work. And as far as that metal, boy, guess what we do? We metal detect the logs. And sometimes the metal can be ground out of the log to not destroy or waste the whole log. If it's a beautiful log, we can grind it out. We think we use a stump grinder on the log. It eats it away and gets down to the metal, and we take it out and check it, and then we'll put it in the mill. But is it an issue? Yeah. Is it one that we accept? Absolutely. Now, we use a circle mill, a big expensive blade. So if we don't find it, as they say at the mill, the blade will. Bandsaw blades on the portable sawmills, those are not that you want to waste them or abuse them, but they're relatively inexpensive. So if you hit metal, that happened to me with somebody doing some special milling for me recently. It was no big deal. They threw on another $20 blade because guess what? The wood was worth it. So is it something to shut down an entire industry? And I know that's not what you meant. No. It's something to know how to manage. Yep. And be aware of. So no, those are two great questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next I'm going to take a question from Zach Hall, and then right after that, I'm going to have Aaron give another plug for our program. So you have a little bit of time if you want to also raise your hand or drop a note in chat. We'll read that out loud too. So go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, Zach.
Great, thanks, Emma, and thanks, Dwayne. Really appreciate the further expansion on your keynote earlier today. Had kind of one comment and then a quick question. I really appreciated you bringing in the background with your community's waste management and how that kind of evolved as far as the language and, evolving into resource management. One thing that's always kind of tripped me up with this is, urban wood is often referred to as wood waste.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess I would if you have any other terms for that raw material, one thing that I've tried to push or have been interested in trying to push is referring to it as raw wood resource, RWR. So it's not referred to as waste. We get that evolution of a different sense of it and kind of get it out of that old mode of the recycling model that you talked about. And then the other thing I wanted to, ask is, you had mentioned at the end of your presentation, colleges and universities coming on board. Do you have some examples of those in Wisconsin? Thanks again.
Yes, thank you, Zach. UW Milwaukee, University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, SARUP, School of Architecture and Urban Planning. I coerced one of their professors to serve on the Wisconsin Urban Forestry Council and kind of serve that architectural role. And he is, you know, he's in his 30s and young and just full of energy and has these innovative courses at school. And I've presented to the school as well as others on multiple occasions. And he is now receiving a lot of product, urban wood, for an urban wood application that the students are doing. That's a nice sigh of relief and kind of a cool accomplishment, but I'll never be fully satisfied until it's fully embraced into curriculum as being, and this may take years. This is not only at the forestry schools as well, this is at the architectural schools, that there is a section on, you know, urban wood utilization. The other was MSOE. They had a little, Milwaukee School of Engineering. I have so many of these colleges. That course was quite a stepping stone, a milestone, but it didn't stick. You know, it was a one-off project. And so the beauty of the network and of these relationships to the council and to build our credibility will just keep going. Mount Mary College has a interior design program that's quite known and popular. And in 2014, one of the head of the interior design department and I penned a course for the school. And it was about to be put into place until she resigned. And new leadership had come in. And so I still chew on them a little bit, you know, because they have such an impact on material selections. And so we need to do, well, I can't say we need to do more because we need to be more effective. And so this is why I encourage the council to create this white paper or this letter of support, so to speak, that encourages this into curriculum. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but has there been success? Absolutely, because we're talking about it. And then there's a troublemaker like me out there that just won't let it go. You know, I'm just going to keep it. I'm going to keep plugging away because I just feel very strongly that's what'll make it happen. And it's interesting. I was a part of the Stevens Point School, you know, good forestry school up there. They have a LEAF program that educates high school age kids, and myself and other Urban Wood Network members were brought on to speak to these students about job opportunities in urban forestry and in urban wood. And I've never been so intimidated in my life, you know, speaking to these younger kids. You guys are easy, but you don't want to steer them wrong. And it was interesting that I learned from one of my peers that this generation will be the first in college to have ever had the topic of urban wood utilization in their ears and in talking. That is significant. And I shared with these students that just because they may not go into an urban forestry field, they can carry their appreciation and knowledge of trees and its products throughout any business that they do. They can perhaps encourage an employer one day to plant more trees. You know, I don't know how to say that, but we can all support so much with an appreciation of our trees, living or when they're gone. And that's something to the core that I hope our urban forestry folks here in Wisconsin really take to heart, that we're bringing awareness to their mission and goals through products. So I hope I answered your question. I kind of got off on a rant.
No, I appreciate it. And real quick, I'd love to connect with you afterwards and get your
Please.
contacts up at Stevens Point. That's a transfer school with us, so we have a connection already with them.
It's a wonderful school. Let's see.
Aaron, I might hand it over to you, and then I see Alex, you do have your hand up, so I'll
Yeah.
have you go at right after Aaron.
Okay, yeah. Just to let everybody know, if anybody's interested in trying to do a project using urban, diverting urban wood in their community, we still have some grant money left. So I'd be happy to talk to you one-on-one about that sometime. You can email me, or you can just Google Urban Wood Utilization Iowa, and I've got it in the chat box too, the web page for our Urban Wood web page. It'll have the grant information on there. So if you're interested in trying to do a little something different along the lines what Dwayne is talking about, please reach out to me, and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about how we can do that. Yeah, I think that other than that, can go over to Alex and see what your question is real quick, since we're running up against 2 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And thanks, Dwayne, for the talk today. I guess more than anything, I know we're out of time, but I just wanted to mention the DNR program that Aaron's managing and the city of Coralville's involvement with that. We did get our first grant funding cycle from that, and we're really excited to start the project on the 19th. So we'll be removing and utilizing damaged and declining bur oaks from one of our green spaces. And then, we're gonna have an arborist do that, and we're transporting those logs to a mill to get them milled up in dimensional lumber, which we'll utilize to build boardwalks back in the same green space where the trees were removed from for our single track trail network.
Beautiful.
Natural surface trails. So we're really excited about that, and we thank Aaron and his program with the DNR to help us make that happen.
And that story never gets old. Seeing trees, we removed a bunch, well, I didn't, but trees removed from a new hospital location, we shed a positive light on it, and that wood will go back into the building. And that just never gets old.
Yeah, so thank you, and thanks for your time today, Dwayne, and everyone hosting this.
I apologize. It seems like I went longer than I intended. So I hope everybody has had the opportunity to ask anything they wanted to, but boy, reach out anytime.
Yeah, we'll stay on just a couple more minutes here if there are any last burning questions, but we also can take questions by email and make sure that we have follow-up. And, just a shout out to the communities that are already doing some urban wood use. We appreciate you, and for communities wanting to do this too, we want to help you along the way, make those connections to sawmills and to buyers. And Dwayne, thank you so much for speaking today. We're excited for Iowa to begin this journey. We hope to be at the point you are in Wisconsin someday, but we're just excited for what is to come with all of our communities here in Iowa, joining on.
Well, thank you all so much as well, and for your confidence in this story. And we're excited to be a part and be helpful any way we can. That's our individual members, the organization itself. Just reach out.
All right, I'm not seeing any further questions, but yeah, if you have a question a week from now, please just go ahead and send one along to Aaron or I, or visit our website, and we'll make sure we're connecting you to Dwayne or to anyone else that can help you along the way.